Hey, how's it going? I wanted to share with you today some stuff that I've been studying out. I've been reading the book of Genesis. Sorry, the lighting in here is not great, but anyway. I've been reading the book of Genesis, and my attention keeps being drawn to Esau. So I wanted to just kind of study out Esau a little bit today. So starting in Genesis 25:19. It says, well, let's start at 25:21. Well, okay. JK, we're starting at 19. This is the account of the family line of Abraham's son Isaac. Abraham became the father of Isaac, and Isaac was 40 years old when he married Rebekah, daughter of Bethuel the Aramean from Paddan Aram, and sister of Laban the Aramean. Isaac prayed to the Lord on behalf of his wife because she was childless. The Lord answered his prayer, and his wife Rebekah became pregnant. The babies jostled each other within her, and she said, "Why is this happening to me?" So she went to inquire of the Lord. The Lord said to her, "2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. One people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger." When the time came for her to give birth, there were twin boys in her womb. The first to come out was red, and his whole body was like a hairy garment, so they named him Esau. After this, his brother came out, with his hand grasping Esau's heel, so he was named Jacob, and the Hebrew for Jacob means he grasped the heel, which is an idiom for he deceives. Isaac was 60 years old when Rebekah gave birth to them. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country, while Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. Isaac, who had a taste for wild game, loved Esau, but Rebekah loved Jacob. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country, famished. He said to Jacob, "Quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished." That is why he was also called Edom. Edom means red. Jacob replied, "First sell me your birthright." "Look, I'm about to die," Esau said. "What good is the birthright to me?" But Jacob said, "Swear to me first." So he swore an oath to him, selling his birthright to Jacob. Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and drank and then got up and left. So Esau despised his birthright. So when I first read this story, and I think the feeling that you get when you first read the story in general is like, wait, what just happened? How did Esau despise his birthright by, he was hungry and he ate, and, you feel like Jacob is the one who's being sort of unseemly. Sorry, just took a shower, so I have weird water streaming down me. But yeah, it's Jacob who seems to be the one who is being unfair. His brother asks him for some food, and he says, "Sell me your birthright before I'll give you something to eat." So that doesn't seem right. But in God's eyes, what is actually the sin is to put the needs, your immediate needs, like your passions, which it can be like passion for food, passion for whatever those things are that you physically feel like you need or want, to put those ahead of your birthright. And your birthright is to be with God. Your birthright is to be saved, to be with God in heaven. So it's interesting that I think there's a lot in this story. I'm just going to focus a little bit on the physical aspects. But I had been noticing a lot how, as I'm rereading Genesis, just noticing a lot how there are pairs of brothers where the one is blessed and the other is not. They're from the same parents, they're from the same source, but one is wicked and the other has grace. So there's Cain and Abel, there's Ishmael and Isaac, there's Esau and Jacob, and then there's also Adam and Jesus Christ, Jesus the Christ. So the Bible talks a lot about how Christ is the firstborn son of many brothers and sisters, and Adam is also the firstborn son of God. He's the first man. But all these brothers, there's a pair, and one is obedient and one is disobedient. And for Esau, I think at first it's kind of hard to see how Esau is disobedient, but it comes from what he loves. It says that Jacob is content to stay at home among the tents. The tents is going to be like their people all gathered together. So he's content to be with the family, basically. He wants to be with the family. He wants to learn the knowledge that's passed down over the years by the family. And Esau is a man of the open country, so he's ranging around, he's roaming around, and what he loves is the world, what he can see, what he can feel, touch, taste, and he's skilled in the world. He's a skillful hunter, so there's no doubt, there's no question to me that he probably also loves his skill as a hunter, that he's able to overcome and subdue certain parts of the world, that, he can match his strength against the strength of an animal and have all of like the physical passions and immediacy of subduing, another work of God's greatness, so it's like if you shoot a deer or whatever, it's like hunters a lot of time recognize the beauty of nature, and then the thrill of it is in being stronger than a strong animal. So there's a way in which Esau probably has a pride of just his own skill, in which he depends on the physical, because it says he ate and drank and then got up and left. So he's kind of keeping. So even though this interaction has happened where he feels slightly indignant about like selling his birthright or whatever, he isn't thinking much more about it. So what he's concerned with is, what am I going to eat? What am I going to drink? All those things that it says, do not worry about those things, for the pagans run after them. So he's an example of someone who kind of runs after those things. And in so doing, he despises his birthright. Okay, so again, I wanted to go back to in verse 23 where it says, the Lord said to her, and that's to Rebekah, his mother, 2 nations are in your womb, and 2 peoples from within you will be separated. 1 people will be stronger than the other, and the older will serve the younger. So Esau is much stronger than Jacob, but still he's going to be in service to Jacob. So I think that this is sort of like a parallel for us about what it's like to be human, that we each have an Esau and a Jacob that we give birth to, so there are 2 peoples from within us that will be separated. So it's like there's the person that is the physical, which is the firstborn, as Esau is the firstborn, and he is physical, he is out in the open, he loves to roam around and just be, and not have to think anything beyond that. And then there's this other birth. There's a younger child, and the younger child is the one who actually will rule, even though it seems like the older should get the inheritance, because it was there first. It's actually the younger, the new birth, that will rule over the older. So as Christians, that's what we're asked to do, is subdue our flesh to the spirit. And sometimes it's really hard to do. So the other part I wanted to read, I was studying this out because I kept coming across this Esau part. Because for me, I'm somebody who can get very comfortable, or I like things that are like, I like to be warm, like I like good food, I like, whatever, like I've been blessed with a lot of those things. But when I start making those comforts my priority, I become no longer spiritual, So there's a state of spirituality that I can get into and that I'm sure many other people can get into, where it feels like you kind of just want, to do what you want to do, but get a pat on the back from God, and be like, okay, well, good job. I know you thought about trying, and I know you did some stuff before, so great job. Like, I don't know, just this past week I've been having a really hard time just getting up and feeling like I'm not getting enough sleep, and just wanting those physical comforts, wanting to feel like super well rested, wanting to feel just like I can have time to do nothing, So, and I will get and even though I know that it's not exactly right, I will get very stuck in that place. So I wanted to read this next passage also. And this is about the blessing from Isaac to Jacob. And so Isaac wants to bless Esau because Esau is Isaac's favorite son, and Jacob is Rebekah's favorite son. So Isaac is dying, and Rebekah knows that he is going to bless Esau. But even though, no doubt, Rebekah has shared with him that God said that the older will serve the younger, but Isaac, still because of his preference, because of his sentimentality, is trying to make it so that he can control it, so that he can give the blessing that he wants to give to his son, because he loves his son and he's sentimental about it, So, yeah, in chapter 27, this whole chapter is amazing, but I think it probably is too long to read here, but definitely go and check it out if you have time. So this is where Rebekah prepares Jacob. She dresses him up like Esau, because Esau's really hairy and Jacob is smooth. And so she puts goat skins on his neck and on his hands, so that if his father, whose eyes are failing, touches him, he will think it's Esau, right? Okay. So this is Jacob then. He went to his father and said, "My father." "Yes, my son," he answered. "Who is it?" Jacob said to his father, "I am Esau, your firstborn. I have done as you told me. Please sit up and eat some of my game, so that you may give me your blessing." Isaac asked his son, "How did you find it so quickly, my son?" "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Ooh, which is true. So this is also a good example of how God works. It's like, even though it seems like Jacob is being deceitful here, which he is being deceitful, but God's way will be the way that it is. Whether or not you try to, be like, well, I don't know if that's really, he did tell me that Esau was going to serve Jacob, but that may not really be true. And so this is also God reminding him that the blessing is really God's to give, right? So, "The Lord your God gave me success," he replied. Then Isaac said to Jacob, "Come near so I can touch you, my son, to know whether you really are my son Esau or not." Yeah, Isaac has his suspicions there. Jacob went close to his father Isaac, who touched him and said, "The voice is the voice of Jacob, but the hands are the hands of Esau." So also we see how Esau is being recognized by his flesh. He did not recognize him, for his hands were hairy like those of his brother Esau. So he proceeded to bless him. "Are you really my son Esau?" he asked. "I am," he replied. Then he said, "My son, bring me some of your game to eat, so that I may give you my blessing." Jacob brought it to him, and he ate, and he brought some wine, and he drank. Then his father Isaac said to him, "Come here, my son, and kiss me." So he went to him and kissed him. When Isaac caught the smell of his clothes, he blessed him and said, "Ah, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness, and abundance of grain and new wine. May nations serve you and peoples bow down to you. Be Lord over your brothers, and may the sons of your mother bow down to you. May those who curse you be cursed, and those who bless you be blessed." So this is Isaac really being very swayed by sentimentality, and and what he loves about his son is his son's physical prowess, his son's skill, and the fact that his son is a man of the earth. Like he says, the smell of my son is like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. But he's kind of doing that thing that we all can do sentimentally, where we get very attached to the gifts and we kind of forget about the giver, So he says it's like the smell of a field that the Lord has blessed. And the Lord has given us all the fields. He's given us everything, and he's made it beautiful. But he also says that this world is passing away. So it's not enough to get stuck on this world, to get stuck in this world. So he says, "May God give you heaven's dew and earth's richness and abundance of grain and new wine." And the language that he's even using here is really driven by God. He's talking about an abundance of grain and new wine. And the New Testament talks about how the harvest is ripe, but the workers are few for that grain, which are souls that need reaping, that need saving. And new wine is like the wine that Christ brings, that needs to be put into new wineskins. So all these things that he's trying to give to Esau, who's a man of the world, and he just can't because that's not God's will. It's not about being a man of the world. It's about being obedient to God, which Esau is not. So then it says, after Isaac finished blessing him and Jacob had scarcely left his father's presence, his brother Esau came in from hunting. He too prepared some tasty food and brought it to his father. Then he said to him, "My father, please sit up and eat some of my game so that you may give me your blessing." His father Isaac asked him, "Who are you?" "I am your son," he answered, "your firstborn, Esau." Isaac trembled violently and said, "Who was it then that hunted game and brought it to me? I ate it just before you came, and I blessed him, and indeed he will be blessed." When Esau heard his father's words, he burst out with a loud and bitter cry and said to his father, "Bless me, me too, my father." But he said, "Your brother came deceitfully and took your blessing." Esau said, "Isn't he rightly named Jacob? This is the second time he has taken advantage of me. He took my birthright and now he's taken my blessing." Then he asked, "Haven't you reserved any blessing for me?" Isaac answered Esau, "I have made him lord over you and have made all his relatives his servants, and I have sustained him with grain and new wine. So what can I possibly do for you, my son?" Esau said to his father, "Do you have only one blessing, my father? Bless me too, my father." Then Esau wept aloud. His father Isaac answered him, "Your dwelling will be away from the earth's richness, away from the dew of heaven above. You will live by the sword, and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." Okay, so this is super intense. But what I was really thinking about a lot this week and identifying with is this bitter cry from Esau. He's saying, "Bless me, me too, my father. Is there only one blessing? Is there only one way? Can't you give it to me too? Can't you bless my flesh too? I just want to do what I want to do." Like, isn't that enough? And the answer is no. And it's really, sometimes you really get stuck in that struggle where you just don't want there to be only one way, But God is, God is wise. He knows the hearts of Esau and he knows the hearts of Jacob, the heart of Jacob, and that's why he's chosen them for the roles that they have. And the reason is basically in the reason that we can't live by our flesh, and that Esau existed to give us that example, is in what Isaac says to Esau, which is obviously not from Isaac, because Isaac wants to bless Esau, but he only has the words that God gives him. He says, "You will live by the sword and you will serve your brother. But when you grow restless, you will throw his yoke from off your neck." So Christ also says that my burden is easy and my yoke is light. My burden is light and my yoke is easy. So that is exactly how it is with the flesh. If we live by the flesh, if we gratify our flesh too much, if we just kind of do what we want to do, then eventually we will grow restless and throw Christ's yoke from off of our neck. So that's why we can't gratify the flesh, even as much as some days that's all we want to do, even with stuff just like sleeping too much or eating too much or just, I don't know. Like, I don't know if you're like me, you get to a place where you start to get like entitled and like, I deserve blah, blah, blah because I've been working so hard or whatever. And that is just not, that is a heart of the flesh versus a heart of the spirit. The heart of the spirit is to work for God out of love for God and out of a gratitude for all that he's given to you. But because we're only human, we can kind of stray from that and start to feel, start to get attached to what we can see, hear, feel, touch, over the underlying and bigger story that's at work. So yeah, I just wanted to share that with you. I hope that's useful. Or just interesting to think about. So yeah, that's Genesis, basically 25 to 27. And then we see also, what I think is so interesting about this too, is that in this account, we don't see Jacob doing anything special to make him worthy of this blessing that he's received. God just gives him the blessing because he knows what he's capable of. So in the way that we can't be saved by works and none of us is worthy of the mercy that we receive, but God has a vision for us and he's got a plan and he's training us to do it. So Jacob is about to go and get hardcore disciplined and trained in patience and honesty and all those things, as he gets sent off from this point. But God is using him and God has plans for him and is going to turn him into the nation Israel, which is the chosen people, from which salvation extends, basically. So that's hopeful. But anyway, yeah, that was my little study for today. You can let me know if you like this format or not and if that's useful for you. Thanks again for watching and take care. Bye-bye.